Hi, my name is Ginny Shattuck, and I'm the owner of Heartwood Yoga Institute. I've created this course to allow people to understand how our retreat budget and planning system works. We've created an Excel sheet that yoga teachers can use to just log in exactly what they have in mind for the vision of their retreat to understand how it will affect their earnings at the end of the day. Now, of course, you can do anything you want when you're planning a retreat, but it's important to do so with your eyes open so that you know exactly at the end of the day how you are going to either prosper or not prosper according to the choices that you make. So, we're going to walk us through this in just a moment. Let me start by saying that a lot of retreat centers will invite teachers to gather their people and come down. And they make it sound really wonderful. They'll say, hey, if you can bring 20 people here, all we charge is $2,500 for the week. And you bring 20 people, which is our minimum. And when you get here, you can charge anything you want. So if you charge $3,500 for this same retreat, you'll make $1,000 a person and you'll come home with $20,000. And that sounds fabulous, right? But they haven't brought into consideration the advertising cost to get those 20 people down. What happens if I don't make my quota and then I have to pay for people? And that really cuts into my profit because I didn't meet the agenda of numbers. It didn't take into consideration any extra fees I'm incurring for flights or guests that I might want to bring for free, a spouse or someone else. It doesn't consider things like opportunity cost. For example, the fact that I have to hire someone else to teach my classes while I'm down there. And when all things are factored in at the end of the day with discounts you might offer and other things, you don't make quite as much as you thought you would. And in some cases, many, many times I've had yoga teachers tell me, well, I went, I had a really good time. I didn't make very much, but it's okay because I had such a great time and everybody loved it. And our feelings are you do need to make money if you're doing retreats. That's an important thing. I've been teaching people how to do retreats for years with our graduates at Heartwood Yoga Institute. And the reason is yoga teachers want to give of themselves. They're loving people and they love helping others. And they have a little sense of adventure. They'd like to go places and have these wonderful events. But at the end of the day, if you lose money or if you don't make money and you just break even, it is an unsustainable business model, which means while you might do it once or twice, eventually you're going to think to yourself, I'd love to do these vacations, but I'd like to take a vacation that doesn't cost me money. I'd like to not have to work the whole time I'm there. I can do it once or twice, but long term, I don't think so. Our plan is to provide everyone with an opportunity to put together a retreat that you make a really good revenue with because you deserve it as a professional. You have a skill set to share. You hold space for people. You are bringing your community with you into whatever location or event you'd like to go, and you should be compensated for that. At Heartwood, we believe a successful retreat is one where the center does well, but more importantly, the yoga teacher does well, and it supports their vibrant career. And it doesn't have to be just yoga teachers, of course. This is for any health or wellness professional who has a service to provide and really wants to engage people in an experience for personal growth and development, health and wellness and what have you, depending on what your services are. So in order to do this, we're going to open up our planner and I'm going to walk you through kind of how it works. Sorry for that. So let me just start by sharing my screen. So this is the Heartwood Retreat Center budget and planning app that we make downloadable for anybody who'd like to do a retreat with us. And we'd like to make this available for whoever needs it to support them so that they can make educated decisions that will be practical when they're planning their retreat. And we have two things that here. We have fixed expenses, as you can see, and flexible expenses. These are two very different things that seem to affect a retreat in very different ways. So Let me take a moment to explain what that means. A fixed expense is something that you are going to have to pay for whether you bring one person to the retreat or 20 people to a retreat. It's a flat fee. If I rent a house in Georgia in the mountains to do a retreat, I'm going to have to pay the fee to that owner of that house, whether it's successful or not successful. There's no flexibility in that. So our fixed expenses are all the expenses that are one flat fee that have no variation or variability depending on whether I'm bringing lots of people or a few people. Flexible expenses are a little different, however. Things like food. If I'm going to feed 10 people, it's going to cost a certain amount of money. But if I'm feeding 20, it's going to cost more. So flexible expenses mean they're going to shift and change depending on how successful the retreat is. Other flexible expenses are things like, let's say I'd like to do an off-site excursion and I want to take everyone to paddleboard yoga down at the beach. And it costs $55 a person to buy a ticket to do that for a few hours. If I'm going to include that in my retreat, I'm going to have a $55 charge. But if I have only 10 people, that's going to be $550, and 20 people, it's going to be $1,100. Therefore, that would be a flexible experience or expense. Now, I also have to realize that later when I'm budgeting, if I'm not making enough money at the end of the day, I might decide, well, I think I'm just going to cancel the paddleboard thing and see how that changes my scenario. And suddenly I'm making that much more money. So this way, by seeing our flexible and our non-flexible expenses, we're allowed to just sort of toy with the numbers and toy with the price, bring it up, bring it down, and decide, well, if I charge this much, I'll make this. And if I charge this much, I'll make that. And it allows you to make an educated decision and really balance the pros and cons of every choice you make to have the perfect retreat. So let's go back once again to looking at the retreat planner. So we're going to start over here with our fixed expenses. And our fixed expenses are those things that, again, cannot be shifted. And we're going to assume you're going to book at Heartwood Yoga Institute, since that's why we're putting this together. And you've picked our highest season, the time of year where we are most popular. And the fee for the whole center, including housing and everything else, is going to be put in here, and it's $9,000. So we start with a $9,000 fee. Now you'll see that we've already built in our cleaning fee for that, which is $350 until we get over 12 people. And then there's a small surcharge for the additional laundry for additional people. And there's a tax in Bradenton where we live of 12%. And so that's automatically calculated for you as well. So we know exactly what you're paying for the center. So there are no surprises later or surcharges or anything else to adjust your numbers as we're doing this. The next category is leaders' payroll. Now, some people are like, let's just see if I make money at the end of the day. And this is not advised, at least not by us. So I'm going to ask you to pick a number, which is the very lowest minimum number that you are willing to do this retreat for. So we're going to pick a just general number. And in this case, I'm going to say $2,000. This is not how much you're going to make, just how much the very least amount of money you would possibly make before you would decide to cancel and not go. You're like, oh, if I don't make that much, it's not worth my time. So we want to pick that lowest number and put it in there. And you're not allowed to put in zero. You might think, well, I don't care if I make money or not. I don't have to have a minimum. And my advice is, if you are a professional, you are doing these services and working with people, you're bringing expertise to the table. There must be some income for you. So pick that low number, lowest you can do, but make it a reasonable number, what your services would be worth in case things went south and you didn't make the numbers that you would like. After that, we're going to have assistant payroll. So you can decide two teachers together are going to do a retreat, but in this case, we're going to assume it's one teacher who's doing the event, and she's going to bring a friend who said, I'll do some cooking, I'll help out a little, I can run a couple of meditations. I'm just going to be the person that runs around, but I'm also going to enjoy the retreat. And we're going to pay that staff member $1,000. We're going to put that in as fixed expense. Whether I bring 4 people to the retreat or 40, 40 would be more than we have accommodations for at Heartwood. But no matter how many, that salary that you promised is the same. So it's a fixed expense. The next thing is insurance. So in order to do a retreat, every person who's a wellness professional is going to need some kind of insurance. If you have a studio or an office, you might need a rider to do something off of your site. So sometimes that will be a $200 charge or a $75 charge. It depends on your company. But a lot of times there will be a fee so that you can practice elsewhere and be covered. And while Heartwood does have insurance for if anyone gets injured on the property, we have our basic insurance. We aren't insured for you and your practices. So you will need that insurance on your own. So we're going to just put a nominal fee of $200 in for that to make sure you're covered. Honestly, if you use B Yogi, if you're a yoga teacher, and sometimes people that have professional insurance in other avenues, they're covered anyway, but you want to check with your company. And places like B Yogi allows you to just download a policy if you are going to be offsite to provide to your retreat center. The next category is opportunity cost. And this is a very important one. It's something that a lot of people don't think about when they're planning their retreats. And what this is all the costs that you are going to incur by leaving for a week to go do this event. An example of this might be, let's say you have animals and you're like, I've got to put my dog in a kennel for the week because I won't be home to feed and care for him. And perhaps that is going to be $500. That's what we're going to say for now is our opportunity cost. This might also be things like if you're a yoga studio owner, you might be saying, I'm going to hire other people to teach my classes while I'm gone. So while you make $2,000, you're not really making $2,000 if you paid $1,000 to people to cover all of your classes. That would be an opportunity cost. So we have to make sure that your earnings are absolutely, totally free earnings, not something that's actually been eaten away of by leaving. So find out what your opportunity costs are. What are the things that you have to pay for in order to go? And maybe it's nothing, but for a lot of people, something will be in that category. Travel expenses for the staff are for the yoga teacher and perhaps for the other person. Maybe you're going to drive to Heartwood because you want a car accessible to do some shopping, to tote some people around for an off-site excursion. And if that's the case, maybe here all we have is gas, or maybe there's an overnight hotel on the drive down. Whatever it costs to get you to Heartwood needs to be in this column. And if you are going to also pay for your staff member to come, you need to put that person in too. So we're going to put $1,000 in this category. These are just theoretical for a couple of plane tickets or for a drive down and a plane ticket. And that may be higher or lower. The miscellaneous column is there for anybody who has an expense that maybe we haven't thought about that's unique unto you. If you have to ship equipment down because you're doing some special service while you're here, and that would be a cost to you, you might want to put it in there. It'd be one cost, not per person, just to get that apparatus down. Anything else that maybe is a fixed expense that you've thought of that really needs to be accounted for would go here. Now we're going to our flexible expenses. So the first thing we're going to do is food. Heartwood offers a food plan for people of $250 for the 5 days and the 5 nights and 6 days to feed everybody. And it's basically a family style plan with vegetarian food. You can have gluten-free or vegan options if you like. But if you choose for us to provide a cook and to do the shopping and do all of that, that would be $250 a person. So if you look at this across the board, you'll notice it goes up according to how many people. So this will be calculated accordingly. If we come up here and say, the assistant that I'm bringing is actually a friend who cooks, and she and I are going to do some shopping, and she's just going to throw the meals together and be a part of the retreat in between, then maybe your shopping can be done for $100 a person, because that's reasonable. We do that at Heartwood ourselves, in which case you'll see the numbers went way down, which means your profit will go way up. But for the purposes right now, we're going to say that it was $250 and you're using our food plan, which is the most expensive way. Remember, you might choose to bring people out and to do some of our, go to some restaurants. You might decide to have a day off-site where people are not going to have to be served at all because we're going to go to restaurants or whatever. So you will have to kind of think through how you want to handle your food to decide what this number is going to be. After this, we have supplies, which are going to be per person. So perhaps here I filled in a few things. You decide to give everybody a journal, and you're going to spend $10 on each of those journals because they're really lovely and you want people to do some journaling while they're at your retreat. So we have $10, and you'll see it goes up according to how many people are there. If you decide, I'm going to make some malas, I'm going to give everybody a meditation mala, and we're going to have a little activity with that. And that's going to be $7 a person. I'm going to go ahead. Oh, I'm just going to make that 7, not 700. I'm sorry. Let's make that just $7 a person. Okay. And then let's say there's a gift. We're going to give everyone a sage kit to take home or some kind of beautiful gift. And I'm going to spend $20 a person on this beautiful little basket of goodies that I'd like to send them that includes sages. So there we go. We're sort of spending quite a bit, but we're going to make all these little extras to make our retreat special. Now, workshop or adjunct teachers are where I'm going to add any outside services. Let's say you look at the list at Heartwood and you're like, I can do a lot of this myself. Partly we're going to just enjoy, the property. I've got some wonderful things planned, but I don't know how to do a shamanic journey. And I think that would be really great. So I'm going to hire one of the staff members at Heartwood to lead us in a 3-hour shamanic journey. And that would be $300. There's a list of different workshops that you might add to your retreat, and you can look through them. And here you can kind of calculate what you'd like to add if you'd like to use those services. So we have the workshop and adjunct teachers, and that's a one across the board because whether you have 8 people or 18, it's still the same workshop. Now, if you picked a workshop that had a materials fee per person, like making malas, then you would have to put up here under the supplies what those extra, expenses would be per person. Now we have off-site excursions. And perhaps you want to take everyone down to Anna Marie Island. And you're like, we're going to do a paddleboard yoga event. It takes a couple of hours. Afterwards, I'm going to let everyone shop in the little beach shops that are down there. We're going to meet at a little restaurant and everybody will pay for their own dinner. So that I don't have to account for. But the paddleboard yoga experience is $55 a person. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on for each and every person that comes down. Car rental or transportation is if you decide, once I get down to Heartwood, I'm going to have to get people to that beach, right, for that event. Therefore, I think I'm going to rent a van and I'll just tote them through back and forth myself. And I've got an assistant who's bringing a car. A couple people are driving. I think we have it covered, but maybe I'll need a car while I'm there. Or maybe you're going to Uber the group out and you need to calculate that. So we're going to say $500. I'm just randomly picking a number for the cost of car rental. And it's real simple for you just to go online and pick whatever vehicle or way that you would like to do this to figure out what the cost will be. So massages or body work per person is if you decided to include it. Let's say you decide everyone that signs up for my retreat gets a free massage. All right, it's going to be included. It's one of the things. And if you are not a massage therapist, that means you're going to need to hire one, and Heartwood has one. So that would be an average of $100 a person. I'm going to put that across the board. And right now we're just loading in our vision for a great retreat. It doesn't have to be perfect, just all the options that maybe are available to us. Printed materials per person, or the fact that you might be deciding, I'm going to make a little manual, I'm going to put it together, some little book for us all to follow, something that shows everybody what we're doing. And I'm going to spend $5 a person on that because it's only a couple of days. It's not a big extensive thing. But if you do some kind of training where you have to have a manual for everybody who's coming, because we're actually providing a certification program of some sort, this might be higher. So you want to consider what the cost of the materials that you're handing the people are and put that here. Advertising is the money, which is also a flexible expense because you can do it or you don't have to, that you might want to spend to get the people in the door so that they come. So we're going to put $1,000 down. You're going to spend $1,000 on this retreat on Facebook push ads and different ways to get people in the door. After this, we have third-party booking fees. If you decide to list your retreat on one of the agency sites, such as Book Retreats or Book Yoga Retreats, they're going to charge you anywhere from 12% or 14% all the way up to 20%. You get to decide what percentage to give them and whether you rank high or low in our it's like an advertising because they're going to get you in front of a lot of potential people. You're going to have to pay for that too. So let's say you decide, I'm going to allow 5 students to come from there and I'll give them some 10%. Maybe it's going to end up costing me 500 a student. So I'll take 4 or 5 of those. So we're just going to put $2,000 in this category of fees that you might spend. And you can get this number a little more accurate once you've decided the price of your retreat. We haven't gotten that far yet. After that, we have miscellaneous. Miscellaneous per person is, oh, there's some other things I think I might spend each person. For each person, I'm going to buy a scarf or something that might go here. If it's not in supplies, I can put it here. Miscellaneous for the group might be, well, one of the things I'm going to do is buy a couple of videos, which I want them to see, and they're $50. $50 for the video. That's a miscellaneous expense. And you can see that it's not per person. So, whether I have 1 person or 10 people, that's what's going to go across the board. Now we're going to come down to our fees charged for the retreat because I have to start deciding what am I going to charge. And I'm a little nervous because I've never done retreats and I don't know who's going to come for 5 days. And I'm not doing anything really, specific, such as giving a certification program to teach people how to be hypnotherapist, or we once had someone who did gasha work for people who are massage therapists. So you may have a skill set where it's a very expensive retreat, and it might be that it's just a relax and renew and an easygoing retreat, and you feel like maybe the price point has to be a little lower. So we're going to start with a really low fee of $19.95 for the retreat. And this is a way of saying, I'm going to charge $19.95 for dorm housing. That means we're going to share rooms, but I will say that the dorm housing is really fabulous at Heartwood because everybody has a pillow-topped bed in a beautiful room, and we have curtains that go around the bed so everyone has privacy for sleeping, and there's 4 in the room, and they share a bathroom. So it's not like a college dorm. It's kind of upgraded, beautiful housing. But here we have the dorm fee. But we also have some private rooms, and you're going to charge a premium for the people that take those rooms. You're going to bring the staff and put them in one of the least expensive or less posh areas. And now we have the private rooms, and you decide. We have several residency trailers that allow a king room that's independent or a queen room. We have a new building with 2 single rooms, each with a bathroom. So we have these 5 private spaces and 1 double dorm, which just has, it's like a double room for 2 people. So if I'm going to charge an extra $500 for the people that get the private room, or $700, I'm going to make additional revenue. So we're going to put $3,500 in additional revenue because we believe that people are going to pick those spots first. I have a lot of people that want that. You'll see that if I'm charging $500 or $600 for a private room, it's still a really affordable retreat, way under under $3,000. And you don't find many great retreats in a place like Heartwood for that cost. Additional services are something that maybe you're going to offer. If you are a life coach and you are allowing people to book private appointments with you at the retreat, if you are doing to give your own massages to everybody, if you're a massage therapist and you're like, I'm not gonna have them, order from you, I'm not gonna include them, I'm just gonna do it myself, I can put that fee here, the things I'm going to charge for of my special services. But in this case, I'm going to leave that blank because I'm starting you off with the very lowest scenario that we can maybe come up with. So now we have an idea that everything is calculated out. And if you look over here, everywhere that there is a red at the bottom, it's a red flag. And what it's saying is this retreat at this price will not work for you because $2,000 was your minimum, the amount of money that you said you would own, the very minimum you're going to do this work for. So if that is the case, you would need to have 14 students just to make $5,000. So we need to go back to the drawing board and fix this because that is not enough money. And also that's a pretty high amount of students to have to bring in. Some people, 14 is very easy to attract, but for others, it might be difficult. And there's some risk involved here because what if you only get 12? You can't make these lower amounts. And Lord knows if you had 8 people, you'd actually be losing money, right? From this 2,000, you'd be losing $2,500, and that's totally unacceptable. So let's go back to the drawing board. The massages that we included per person, you might decide, you know what? I don't need to give them a massage. They can book their own massage and pay for it. That way, the ones that want it can have it. The others don't have to. Don't really need that. And if I come up here to the journals, I go, I don't know that I need to spend $10 a journal. I'm going to go to the dollar store and get a dollar journals. That'll be enough for everybody. It'll still be lovely. And I'll still do the malas, but maybe instead of a $20 basket per student, I'm going to spend $10 on a student gift. So I'm going to save some money there. On advertising, I'll look, but I might decide, maybe I want this third party booking fee here because that's how I'm going to get these larger numbers. But you might decide, I don't think I need it. I have a big, vibrant community. People are going to come. I have a following. I have people that, I'm going to do a lot of my own advertising. So maybe I'm not going to list over there. I can put it back later or I don't have to do it, right? And I'm looking through all of this. Now I look at the expense and I come back over and I think, well, now it's looking a little better. Now I have to make 12 people to make some money. I'll make $5,000 if I get 12 students. But I'm a little worried about this 10. There's still a red flag here. I think there's more work to be done. So I'm going to come back over here and say, you know what? Since I'm making this a very inexpensive retreat, I don't think I'm going to use the Heartwood food plan. I'm going to do shopping on my own. I'm going to have the person that I hired for $1,000 do some cooking. And I will tell you now that Heartwood does have a bunch of recipes. We have really easy things in our kitchen, like crock pots and rice makers, and ways to make it very simple to do, like soup and salad for lunch, and then easy to serve dinners. And you'll find that you can pretty much do the food for a lot cheaper if you decide to do your own preparations. No. So, excuse me. So now I've just dropped that food plan quite a bit. Now I look and I think, oh, wait a minute. Now, if I have 8 students in this scenario, there's still a red flag. But if I get 10, and 10's pretty easy to get for pretty much anybody with these low prices, I'm going to make $3,000 for the week. But if I get 14, which is my target number, I'm actually going to make $10,000. Now, this is what we've talked about people make when they go to Costa Rica. But at Costa Rica, they're trying to sell a retreat that is $3,500. And this doesn't include all the advertising and the opportunity costs and all the other things that the expenses that are going to be associated to them being able to get the people to follow them down to Costa Rica. There's a lot more risk there. So here we've accounted for every expense, everything that it takes to get these people in the door. And now you might look and go, hey, I can offer a very inexpensive retreat in a beautiful place. There's not a lot of travel expenses. Some people will drive. It's just not so bad to get down there. The flights are pretty good. You don't need a passport. Here we go. We're going to bring down there. And if I can find 14 people, I'm going to make $10,000. That's a makeable putt for me. But even here, I might decide, but I think I need to make more money. So we can go back here to the retreat and go, what happens if I charge $2,500 for the retreat? Oop. I think that my population, my target audience, will pay for that, plus the upgrades on those that want the private houses. And suddenly the numbers go up quite a bit. If you are doing a training or you're giving a certificate program or you're somebody who has a special skill set that you're offering, suddenly you're like, now that's definitely worth more money in my week-long retreat. I can charge more. So if you feel the market will bear for you $2,500, now all I need is 10 people and I've made $8,000. And if I get those 12 people, I'm making almost $13,000. And I've still got my help, and she's helping with the cooking. That's how it's going to work. And if I'm really successful and I could bring 18 people, I'm making $26,000 for this retreat. You might decide maybe I want to advertise more personally. So I'm going to add another $1,000. I'm going to spend $2,000 on advertising or three because I know that's going to drop those numbers up. And suddenly, if I think I've got this much advertising revenue, my 12 people are likely, and I'll be making $12,000 for the 5 days that I'm coming, 6 days that I'm coming. I might decide at this point to either add or subtract from the workshops. I might decide to add or subtract to the things I'm giving or shift and change what I'm feeding everybody, all right, what I'm doing there. Maybe I don't want the offsite excursion here. Maybe I want more of one. I can start to adjust all these numbers just to make sure I come up with a retreat that I think I can sell to my population and my people, and it will be worth this fee for those people who have a really strong skill set, because often people will be doing, let's say, a teacher's training, and their feelings are, I'm going to do part of it online at home, and we're going to have it's a hybrid, and we're going to come here to do the end of this big graduation ceremony, something I add. Maybe I can even decide to charge $3,000 for my retreat. And if you feel the market will bear that for your special skill, suddenly you're like, okay, now my 12 people, I'm going to walk away with $17,000 for the week. Or if I have 18, I'm going to have $34,000. So now we're making quite a bit of money. And you'll see that the amount of your expenses, the fixed expenses, the stuff that Heartwood gets, is pretty low, right? So you are the person who's prospering most. And we feel at Heartwood that that's fair because it's your people, it's your service, and your work. And we are here to support you in whatever way you need to make your retreat work. Whether you need us to help you with the food plan, whether you need us to help you with some of the beautiful activities you do, or whether you don't. This convenient downloadable, Excel sheet allows you to just play and do a little research and make decisions. But at the end of the day, you know exactly what you are going to make and how many people you need to make sure you get into the door to meet your agenda and your goals. Our hope is that everybody will target about a dozen people. That is a very small and intimate retreat by today's standards. But we also want to consider the risk factor. In case you can't get people in the door, we do have this number of 8. And we have independent housing. If you have 2 people who are, staff members in a bed one way, we have enough housing for another 14 people to everybody have their own bed and be extremely comfortable at Heartwood. But do know that there's some other things that can happen. For example, some of our beds are king size or queen size, and some people put 2 people in a room like that. If you share 2 people in a room, it frees up another space to sell to someone else. We also have a couple of pull-out couches in our library, and sometimes we'll throw a staff member or someone in there if you choose to do that, and that frees up a space that we can sell. You might even choose to put people off-site. There's a hotel right 4 miles away from our door, and we will provide some transportation if you need to house people there. So we can add the cost of the hotel room, which is usually anywhere, depending on season, from $100 to $140 a night. So if you add 5 nights at that, you can say for an additional $700, you can get a private room at a hotel with, cleaning service and everything else, and every day go back and forth to retreat. If that's the case, you've just expanded your capacity to have a lot more people at your event. We do say, because Heartwood is an intimate facility, that we should probably stick to the number of 20 people or so for comfort, because anything more, it becomes a little bit crowded. And we're an intimate facility that's designed for smaller people. Not smaller people, but smaller groups of people. Do know, though, that if you are using this retreat planner for a retreat elsewhere and you can put 40 people in there, that's really wonderful. And in this custom number, you can add those higher numbers and how that works for you. We do a lot to make sure that we can support you on your journey. So when you book at Heartwood, you can decide to hire our people to help you with certain specialty things. But do know that we also offer a course that will walk you through how to do specific activities in the different unique areas of Heartwood to make a poignant and memorable and heartfelt experience for your clients, the people that join you on your retreat. For example, we teach you how to do certain mindful art projects in the art room. If you decide I'd like to bring everybody out there and we're going to do some creativity exercises, and we will show you how to lead that and do it. If you want everyone to walk the labyrinth, we'll show you 4 or 5 different ways that you can present the labyrinth and be the guide to allow people to have that mindful experience. Perhaps burn intentions out there in our fire pit that's also there. If you decide, I'd like to do some ceremonies, we offer 6 different beautifully presented ceremonies that you can just learn and present yourself. We offer you the script, we offer you how to prepare and exactly what to do to guide people for a mindful and really poignant and wonderful ceremony. There's one for the fire pit that is about elements. There's one for the meditation gazebo, which is empowering people to find their own voice. There's a ceremony at the wishing tree that is a chakra oriented ceremony. We have a ceremony at the labyrinth. We have ceremonies all over the property that in our chakra garden, there's a beautiful chakra oriented where we cross the bridge. And when we get to the other side, everyone can lay floating lanterns into the pond and have that poignant, time at dusk. So we provide all of these resources so that you're not going to a place you've never been before and not sure what you're going to find when you get there, and you don't know what to do with everybody other than a yoga class in the morning and a yoga class in the afternoon. This gives you opportunity to move around the property and plan some really beautiful events while you're with us. There's also fabulous offsite excursions, which we will help you learn what's available and what you might want to add to your retreat. There's also opportunities for you to work with some of our staff if you'd like, or to even invite your people to take some of the public classes at Heartwood. There's only class a day, but they can take a yoga class with others, and those that don't want to don't have to. You have a beautiful lodge that allows people to gather. You can show films in there. And in all 3 of our primary spaces, 2 large yoga spaces and workshop areas, as well as the lodge, there's audio-visual equipment. So if you're doing any teaching or you want to show a presentation, a slideshow presentation or anything else, we have large screen TVs, or we have projectors that are out there, music and everything else. So you are fully functional. There are tables and chairs that you can set up for different areas and spaces to go for the most perfect retreat that you can plan. So I hope you call us if you'd like to learn more. Please download and use this Excel sheet, and we wish you the best in your planning. Do know that you are a professional and you deserve to make money for the skill and the time and the energy and the heart you put into your event. We hope that we can support you on that journey and that you prosper and do very, very well and really impact a lot of lives. Thank you.